So the loving kindness exercise, the framework it comes out of is this Buddhist framework. So it's not that I'm particularly enamored of the Buddhist thing, but they've done some work on these meditation things and some frameworks like love. And there are other frameworks in other traditions, I know, but this one I'm going to share with you tonight suggests there are sort of 4 aspects to this. And love is a difficult term because it means lots of different things. There is an aspect to it which is a noun. There's definitely an aspect to it as a verb. So we love, but we receive love. We give love, and we love. So even in English, it's pretty confusing. The Greeks have 5 words for it. And the Buddhists sort of represent it in sort of 4 different ways. One of them is this simple aspect that we probably most closely associate with just love, which is the well-wishing. It's wishing people well. It's wishing for people's happiness. It's wishing for people to do well, to be healthy, to be happy, to live with joy, to be safe. So it's wishing people well is sort of stage 1. And it's a great feeling. It's a very powerful feeling. It's a very warm feeling. And we all have this capacity to wish people well. And that is this first aspect of love. Then the second aspect is perhaps better represented by the word compassion. And compassion and love are definitely in the same sphere. They're linked. But there is a sort of subtle difference. Compassion involves, well, on the one level it involves empathy. So it involves the willingness to feel somebody else's pain and suffering. It's that willingness to go there, to go to that step where you see somebody in pain, see somebody sad, in grief, see somebody hurt. And you are prepared to allow yourself to feel that, to feel their pain and their suffering. And then there's a step beyond empathy. So empathy is just the feeling. It's just having that sympathetic response of feeling their feeling, or at least imagining what they're feeling. And then compassion involves this extra step where, and this is a bit subtle, but where you want to do something about it. So compassion is the urge to try to do something about somebody's suffering. It's not actually doing something about it. Not that there's anything wrong with doing something to help or to serve somebody else who may be struggling or suffering. But compassion can simply involve the desire, the wish, willing to want to help somebody. And an example might be that, let's say somebody is dying, and you feel maybe the struggle and the sadness and the grief, and you want to do something about it. You hear that somebody has terminal cancer and you want to do something about it. The truth is you can't. There's not much you can do. But that wanting to do something about it is the compassion. It's that willingness to go to that step. Now, compassion and love are a little bit different because compassion does involve suffering. It involves wishing somebody not to suffer. So it's a little bit subtly different than just wishing somebody well. We're going to that step of recognizing somebody's struggle. Love is just like, I hope you're fine. I hope you're great. I hope you get well. Compassion is the recognition. It's stepping into their pain and their suffering and wanting to do something about it. And it's a little bit of an edgy situation because if you go too much, you can get overloaded by empathy. And we see that a lot in frontline workers like healthcare workers or the police or fire brigades or people in the army. People who are exposed to a great deal of trauma can get too much. They can get too much exposure to pain and suffering. Third world aid workers, for example, is another category where there's a great deal of burnout, or actually people working in many NGOs and charities can get that burnout because they just see too much. There's too much. So one has to be very careful with compassion. You can overdo it, and you have to find that balance, and that requires great wisdom. And Sometimes it involves going over the edge and finding out where that edge is and then having to recover and pull yourself back. So compassion is definitely braver than love. It's a step up, if you like. It's that willingness to experience a little bit of pain. And you don't have to do this, of course. But I'm just saying that, within this tradition, here's the model, is that there is love and then there is compassion. The third piece doesn't sound as bad, but I often think it's like just insane, is sympathetic joy, is what it's known as. Sympathetic joy is this idea that you are happy for somebody else to be happy. So somebody else is hugely successful, and you're like genuinely pleased for them. And maybe you're a better person than I am, you can do this. But you probably at the very least know somebody who, if something is going really well for you, if your life has turned out well, if you've won the lottery, or you've got a great promotion, or you've fallen in love, and you tell this person, they are genuinely pleased for you, as opposed to the slight resentment, because they wanted to feel that. They wanted the promotion. They wanted the success. They wanted the love. So instead of seeing it as a reflection on what they don't have, somebody is just genuinely happy for you, known as sympathetic joy. And this is something where I have a long, long way to go. I know that, I'm genuinely happy for my friends who do well, but I also notice that when, on this website and things like that, I have an email list, and it's about 450 people on the email list. There's only about 150 people who are really active on it, sort of actually open their emails and things like that, but that's okay. But anyway, so 450 is like the big number. That's the high number. And it's taken a long time to get there, and, not dissatisfied with that at all. And then my friend Douglas, who some of you know, and he's maybe even online right now, but he's teaching, and he has an email list, and there are 3,000 people on his email list. And I'm like, I'm so happy for you. And of course, part of me is, and there's another part of me that's like, how does he have 3,000 people? Why don't I have 3,000 people? So I have a ways to go in my sympathetic joy. There is something to sympathetic joy that I think is quite important with regards to meditation, though, which is just to recognize that this sympathetic joy thing, it's an advanced state. Most people, most of us, aren't very good at it. Most people aren't very good at it. So, when it comes to meditation, let's just say hypothetically, you are meditating and you have a great meditation and it's fantastic, and you see Jesus in Technicolor, or you experience oneness and your heart opens blissfully, or you feel yourself exploding into millions of pieces and becoming one with the universe. Whatever it is, sometimes these things happen. Not often, but sometimes they do. The instruction in classic meditation schools is don't tell anybody. And it's not that it's not good to have those things. It is not that it's not good to share with people that you find meditation valuable. It is that sympathetic joy is unusual. So if you go and say, I had the most amazing meditation, I had all these things, I saw all these colors, I had all these experiences, like my heart exploded. If you tell somebody about that, it's unlikely they're going to feel sympathetic joy. You're probably just going to kind of ruin their day, because they're going to go, I didn't feel any of those things. So in general, recognizing that this sympathetic joy thing is unusual and difficult and an advanced state of this kind of generosity, kindness. Yeah. Try not to share your really cool experiences. The exception to that is perhaps with me, or if you have a meditation teacher, somebody else, you can share it with them and talk about it and share it, and they will be delighted for you. It's like, seeing the fruits of these things come to life. So it's fun. So that's okay. But in general, we don't talk about it much. So, and that's why. That's one of the reasons why. Sympathetic joy, it's like what Instagram is the opposite of. Everybody's like, hey, look how wonderful my life is. And everybody else is like, oh, I'm pissed. Why isn't my life that good? So, sympathetic joy. Now, the last piece is, it's a weird word, equanimity. And I think it sounds like balance, and it is balance in many ways. And it means a lot of things, and there are whole long books written about equanimity, and it's a wonderful thing in many ways. But one of the ways I like to think about it, certainly as far as thinking about this whole love and compassion thing, is that I think ultimately, if one gets really good at this love stuff and the compassion piece, the truth is that you can see the absolute most extraordinary beauty in the world, and you can experience this incredible thing that we call love, and you can practice it, and it's amazing. And you can see other people having this capacity for it. You will hone in on those stories of true altruism and heroes and heroic stories, and really notice that. But with the compassion piece, you're also going to notice all of the ugliness of life, all of the pain of life, all of the suffering in life. And they are both true. And most of us would rather not face up to the ugly side. We'd rather pretend it's not there, or compartmentalize it and go, oh, well, homelessness is a problem, and I'm just going to, recognize it's a problem and I can't really do anything about it. And maybe I'll send some money to a charity. But that's, what can I do? This person is suffering. Well, it's a complex problem, and we can intellectualize it, and we won't actually engage with the pain or the suffering of the problem. And the brutal truth is that you can't fix the problem. It's complex. And maybe it's helpful to give somebody some money, and maybe it's not helpful to give somebody some money. You don't know. It's difficult to have that wisdom. So we can intellectualize it, compartmentalize it, and cut ourselves off from the pain and the suffering of life. And I think this equanimity piece is that this sort of almost ultimate state is this ability to hold the beauty of life in one hand, but also able to hold simultaneously, to hold the reality of the pain and suffering of life, and to be able to hold both of those without shying away from them, and be able to hold that in balance. So we're not overwhelmed by the pain and the suffering, and we're not overly fixated on it and how terrible the world is and how it's all going to hell. And we're not, looking at the world as unicorns and rainbows and like, isn't it all wonderful? And like, all is one. We're not on either extreme. We're able to do both, able to hold the world as it is, its beauty and its ugliness, and to hold both. And I think that's possibly, these are the four states. This is the four model of love. So I think the love thing is great, and feeling it and experiencing it and being kinder, being more generous, starting to avoid judgment. It's a great start. But I think there's a reason all these great religions and philosophies have always idolized and idealized this thing that we call love. And that is not because we're all born with this natural capacity. What's so great about being born with a natural capacity? It'd be like me saying, I'm so glad, I'm so proud of my blue eyes. I didn't do anything to get my eyes. I didn't do anything to get this capacity for love. So there would be no point in idolizing or idealizing the capacity for love. The point would be to idealize those people, or the process of uncovering, developing, and deepening our capacity for love. And I think these four things, this gives us four things to think about, and four maybe ideal states to work on. As I said last week, heaven knows I'm not an expert in this. I am definitely a work in progress. But I think we all have this. We all have progress to make. And the work isn't that bad. It's quite pleasurable. And we start out with loving ourselves. So, love, compassion, sympathetic joy. I don't know if I'll ever get sympathetic joy, but I'll keep working at it. Keep doing the exercises. Maybe it'll happen one day. And then equanimity.